I am going to share with you 6 of the biggest and most common mistakes women make when it comes to training in order to get toned and build muscle. I have made all of these mistakes and plenty more, and I'm sharing these 6 common ones is because these are the ones that I have helped my clients with. And I want to share this with you so that these are the mistakes to avoid and to help you progress to your goals of building muscle and getting tone much faster and effectively, so that you don't make these mistakes, so that you save your time and energy in not making it. So the first one, which most people aren't really aware of, is being in a fat loss mindset. And I say that not many people are aware of it is because we have been taught, especially women, have been taught from a very young age, where from society or from cultural background, that women should be looking a particular way, and that is often skinny and petite. And naturally, we have as our mindset that we need to be in a fat loss phase in order to achieve that body ideals. So the first step to break this perception or mindset, being in a fat loss, if your goal is to build muscle, is to get out of that fat loss mindset. Because when we're building muscle, we really need to let go of being in a fat loss phase, because it makes it incredibly challenging if our mindset, we want to be building muscle, but if you are in this fat loss mindset, it is going to hold you back on other things. Like, you're going to be under eating, you are going to be overtraining, you're going to be doing things that goes against building muscle. So that is mistake number 1, is to get out of this fat loss mindset. And that's the first step, is to unlearn and to be aware and educated about the reality of building muscle. I wanted to also share that a lot of women say that they want to get toned. I'm going to define what tone is. What tone is and what women mean when they want to get tone is it's a buzzword. In order to achieve a toned physique, is that you need to be doing some form of resistance training in order to build muscle. So when you build muscle and you combine that with proper nutrition, and let's just say you want to go for fat loss, then you have to be in a calorie deficit. So you're eating a little less than maintenance in order to drop body fat and reveal the muscle that is underneath the layer of fat. And essentially, when women do that, they do that without even knowing, where they eat a little less and they drop body fat and they're lifting weights and they see their muscles reveal, and that gives them that toned look. So in order to achieve a toned look, you need to be doing some form of resistance training. You need to be building muscle combined with a calorie deficit, then your muscles will reveal. So just know that that is the whole idea of being toned. The second mistake that I have made, and many of the women that I've helped with, is under eating. And I'm going to give you a typical example of how the conversation goes. And this can resonate with you, and this may be you, where they know that in order to build muscle, you need to be eating more. Yes, we know that we need to be eating more. So what they do is, at the end of their fat loss phase, they want to be building muscle. They understand that they need to build their calories up. So they at the end of their fat loss phase, maybe it's at 1400 calories or 1600 calories. And then they progressively build their calories up to the 1800 mark, to the 2000 mark, to the 2200 mark. And once they step on the scale and they see the scale number trend up, they immediately think that that is body fat. So what they do is that they take the 2200 calories, back down to the 1800 calories, and then they just go through this cycle because of the scale weight trending up, and they think that it is body fat. This is such a cycle that, we're not putting ourselves in a true building phase. And even at the 2,200 mark, which is probably maintenance, it's going to make it really hard for you if your goal is to build muscle and if you are serious about it. So they're just in this cycle where it's 1,800, 2,000, 2,200, 2,400, and they come back down. And, you're just rinsing through this cycle of going through the same pattern. And this is not helping you in order to make the most out of building muscle. And in fact, it's just this constant, under eating. So generally, when you want to be in a building phase, we need to put our body in its most anabolic state, which is at least a maintenance or being in a surplus. So under eating will not help you get to your goals. And especially if women have that belief that lifting weights will make women bulky, and if they're under eating, that it is going to make it so hard for women to put on muscle. So making sure that you are eating enough and not under eating. This leads me to my next point that I wanted to make, or the next mistake, is that not spending enough time in a building phase or a gaining phase, or what they call it, a bulking phase. I don't like to call it a bulking phase because it sounds as if you could just eat whatever you want to eat. That is not the case. You are in a building phase or a gaining phase where you bring your calories up and you eat more than maintenance in order to put your body in its most anabolic state. And the thing is, it is impossible for women to build any kind of quality muscle if you're just constantly going through that 1,800, 20,000, 2,000, 2,200, 2,200, and then bringing it back down, and then you're just repeating that cycle. This is the biggest mistake if you are serious about putting on a decent amount of muscle. We can't just cycle it within those calories. Yes, you will most likely see a scale in the weight, the scale number trend up, and you may put on some body fat, but at the same time, you are building muscle. You are building muscle behind the body of the layer of body fat. And this is where the first point comes into play, where we need to change our mindset, and especially when it comes to being in a building phase. Yes, it will be uncomfortable to be in a building phase. I can tell you that I've been through so many building phases. If I was to count, maybe I've been through 4 or 5 building phases where I bring my calories up and even more. And yes, I have seen a scale weight jump up. I feel that I'm taking much more space. My clothes fit a lot tighter, and it is uncomfortable, and it does feel very uncomfortable, but that discomfort is needed. And I could tell you that every single woman that have had a decent amount of muscle have definitely gone through a building phase. So being uncomfortable, having that short-term sacrifice for long-term gains. Because when you get to a point where you diet down again and you get into a fat loss phase, number one, because you've built your calories up so high, you don't have to take it so drastically down when you are in a building phase, and you will reveal the muscles that you've built. And every single time you do a building phase, it will get better each time as you learn something new and you're building more muscle. The more muscle you have, then you're able to eat more, and you're learning your body at the same time. So the mistake is to really lean into not spending enough time in a building phase. And when I say time, I mean at least 6 months minimum, at least 6 months. And I have been in a building phase where I was there for a good year during COVID, where I was just in a pure building phase where I did gain a lot of weight, but I still trained with what I could at home. So spending enough time in a building phase. Will you gain weight? Yes, you will. Will you see a number on the scale weight trend up? Yes, you will. But as long as you are training hard, that's the main thing. As long as you are keeping on top with your resistance training and you're putting all of that extra food into good use with training with intensity, using progressive overload. And then when it comes to a time where you drop down in body fat, it will all make sense because you built the muscle and that is the only way to build muscle if you are serious about if you're serious about gaining a decent amount of muscle. All right, the next point is overtraining. Often when people, and I certainly was in this trap, and something that I've learned the hard way is overtraining or training more. The more you train, you have this feeling where if you don't train, just instantly you feel like you're going to lose all of your gains. I know this feeling so well because I used to train balls to the walls where I would just put 120% in every single session that I did because I really wanted to grow muscle. I really wanted to have like jacked legs, big glutes, more importantly, my big lower body. And I would just go hard all out. I would train 6 days a week. I knew that rest was important, but I was training 4 to 5, at least 5 days a week. And if we're training every single day or that amount of time and we're not recovering as much, which leads me to my next mistake, which is not having enough rest. But, training too often or training more does not necessarily mean more muscle gain. We need to take rest days in order for your muscles to recover. So the next mistake is to not take your recovery days, not take your rest days. If your coach says to you, you are given 4 training sessions a week and you just do the 5, or if you're prescribed 5 sessions a week and you're doing 6 or 7, or you're adding things on top of your actual training session, or you're doing more just because you can, that is going to be very ineffective and that's not training smart because you're not recovering and your body needs to recover, because when you recover, you're able to put that extra energy and effort into your next training session. And I'll give you an example where I would just train so hard every single session where there would be if I was training, sometimes my sessions, if I was training 6 days a week, I would have some sessions where the training quality would suffer because I was just so burnt out with the previous 2 to 3 days of training hard where I needed to rest. So it would have been so much better if I've taken that rest day to fully recharge my nervous system, to fully recover so that I could have that intensity in my next training session. Because, if you're training really hard and you're not recovering, it could impact your next training session. So this leads me to my next mistake is to, yes, take your rest days seriously and don't do anything that your coach hasn't prescribed you with, or doing something that will impact your recovery where maybe you're running or you're doing some high intensity sports or activity. Yes, we want to be moving the body and we could do that through just slow walks outdoors. We could do mobility work, or we could do stretches or something to really we're moving but we're not taxing the body, because rest and recovery is important. So do not neglect those days. They are the biggest training mistakes that I've made and I've learned, and I could tell you now I'm a lot smarter with my training where I take my rest days I do take my rest days. I actually really do look forward to them because this is self-care. You are looking after your body in order for you to perform optimally your next session. And second of all, sleep. Sleep is so important, and really optimize that, because that is where the muscle building process happens. It happens in your sleep. The most important of all, the mistake that you need to avoid is to not compare your progress to anyone else. Okay. And I really mean this when I say it, because we live in a world where we compare our progress to someone else. You simply can't compare your chapter 1 to someone's chapter 30. The thing that you have advantage over is that time is on your hands. There is so much information out there right now, and people have made all of these mistakes to share with you so that you don't make them, and to help you progress to your goals faster. So it is such, it's such an exciting journey. And just remember that it is your journey and it is about the process. So just know that you are on your own journey, and to invest your energy into your own journey and your own progress when it comes to building muscle. And I really wanted to share this. I know that women still have that misconception about lifting weights, making women bulky, and building muscle. The thing is, when it comes to building muscle, especially for a female, it takes time. It's something that you just won't magically get big within a short amount of time, unless you have, freaky genetics and you suddenly put on heaps amount of muscle, which, I'm jealous of, because genetics do play a role. But with that being said, building muscle is a slow process. And I know when I say this, it can seem discouraging, especially in the world of social media these days, where it is heavily marketed on building muscles in such a short amount of time to get you, buying into their products or services. But I'm just being real here that building muscle is a slow process, and of course you could make it more efficient with learning how to train properly, with the right tools, the right guidance, getting coaching, eating enough, changing your mindset, leaning into the discomfort of being in a gaining phase, the short-term sacrifice for long-term gains. And, having a mentor or coach that could help support you through these times. It's so important. But I just want you to know that what you are doing now is contributing to your future self. It really is about the 1% that you put in. You might not see it tomorrow, next month, or a few months' time, but I could tell you that the sooner you start, it's just that 1% that adds up each time. And often women get so discouraged where they not seeing any results and they stop entirely, because we live in a world where we want to see instant results. But training yourself to know that you are in this for the long game, where building muscle takes time, but it is such a rewarding process, because you're not only gaining a physical body, but you're also gaining mental resilience, mental strength. And this is what you have for life, and what is the most rewarding is having that mental resilience and being patient with yourself, and seeing all the positives when it comes to lifting heavy weights. You're strong, and just all of these kind of things. So just know that the 1% that you are doing today is going to add up. And the sooner you start, the more you're going to add that 1%, and it will accumulate into something incredible. So my encouragement for you is to keep going with your progress and to avoid all of the mistakes that I have mentioned in this video, where that is being in a fat loss mindset, under eating, overtraining, not being in a gaining phase for a long period of time, overtraining, not taking your rest days seriously, and comparing your progress. So avoid these mistakes and just, show up consistently for that 1% better each time. If you have any questions around anything when it comes to the building muscle or getting toned, pop in a Hey Ella, hashtag Hey Ella in the comments below, and I will get to your question in a future video. Thank you so much. And I want to remind you that your mind is your most powerful asset and that you could do anything you put your mind to. And I cannot wait to see you in our next video.